The hall was stunning, decorated with colorful balloons and twinkling lights that reflected the joy of David's birthday. Friends and family gathered in lively conversations while the smell of delicious dishes filled the air. Maria, David's girlfriend, was radiant in her light blue dress, which perfectly matched her bright eyes. However, a slight anxiety accompanied her. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. As she watched the party, Maria saw Stacy, her best friend, approach David. He was surrounded by a group of friends, but his attention seemed fixed on Stacy, who wore a broad, confident smile. "Look at them," Maria thought, trying to ignore the pang of jealousy rising in her chest. "It's just a friendship," she kept telling herself, trying to calm her restless mind. "Are you okay, Mari?" asked Anna, a longtime friend who noticed Maria's pensive expression. "I'm fine, just a little tired," Maria replied, forcing a smile. "The party is beautiful, isn't it?" "Yes, David really knows how to throw a party," Anna said, looking at the birthday boy, who was now laughing loudly at a joke Stacy had told. "And Stacy has always been the life of the party," she added with a slight smile. Maria nodded, but the image of David and Stacy together wouldn't leave her mind. The laughter between them seemed louder, more intimate. She distanced herself a little, trying to distract herself by talking to other guests, but her gaze always returned to the pair. The way he looked at her, as if sharing a secret, made her stomach churn. "I should have brought my camera," one of the friends said, breaking Maria's trance. "If you don't film it, it's not a party." "You're right, let's make a toast," David shouted, raising his glass of champagne as everyone eagerly joined him. Maria tried to focus on the smiling faces around her, but the feeling of discomfort didn't leave her. "To David, who is celebrating another year of life and bringing us so much joy," Stacy said in her melodious voice, raising her glass. "Here's to many more." "To life and friendship," David shouted, and everyone toasted. Maria smiled, but her heart was racing. What was happening? Why did she feel like this? With a deep sigh, Maria decided she needed a moment alone. The party continued with loud music and laughter, but she withdrew, looking for a quieter corner. As she left the hall, her phone vibrated. It was a notification from a social network. Curious, Maria opened it and, to her horror, found a photo of David and Stacy together, taken in what seemed like an intimate moment. Her heart raced. It was exactly the confirmation she didn't want, but at the same time, she couldn't ignore it. "It can't be," she murmured to herself, her mind spinning with questions and doubts. Why hadn't David told her? What else didn't she know? The image lit a flame of determination inside her. She needed to investigate. She needed to know the truth. But how? Maria took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline rise. She returned to the party, but now with a new focus. Watching David and Stacy, who continued to share knowing laughs, she felt determined. The night wouldn't end like this. She couldn't let betrayal catch her off guard. The puzzle pieces were starting to fit together in a disturbing way, and the party, which was supposed to be a celebration, now turned into an emotional battlefield. "I'll find out the truth," Maria thought as she mingled again with the guests, her heart pounding with a mix of love and betrayal. The journey she was about to embark on wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to uncover what was hidden. The party continued, but for Maria, the real event was just beginning. Maria sat on one of the party sofas, her gaze fixed on David and Stacy. The environment around her seemed to fade, as if all the laughter, conversations, and music became a distant echo. Her heart was racing, and a wave of doubts began to invade her mind. When she finally decided to confront David, what should have been a calm conversation turned into an emotional whirlwind. She stood up, determined, and crossed the room full of friends. As she approached David, who was laughing at a joke Stacy had told, Maria felt the adrenaline surge. "David, can we talk for a minute?" Her voice sounded firm, but there was a subtle tremor she couldn't hide. David, surprised, looked at Maria. "Sure, love. What happened?" He seemed carefree, as if nothing was wrong. This only irritated her further. "I saw the photo of you and Stacy," Maria began, her tone restrained, but anger was about to explode. "You two seem very close, more than friends should be." David frowned, confused. "Maria, it's just friendship. You know how Stacy is. She's super outgoing. There's nothing to worry about." His response sounded convincing, but his insistence only increased her suspicion. Friendship? David, I saw the way you two look at each other. It's not normal, and you know it. Maria tried to control the emotion in her voice, but she couldn't avoid a slight tremor. I'm not here to make a scene, but I need to understand what's going on. Stacy, who was now listening to the conversation, intervened. Maria, you're exaggerating. We were just having fun. It has nothing to do with it. Stacy's defensive tone made Maria's blood boil. How could she put herself in that position with such audacity? Sorry, but I'm not exaggerating. I have reasons to feel this way. And you, Stacy, should know it's not right to flirt with your best friend's boyfriend. Maria responded, looking into her friend's eyes. The tension in the air was palpable. David, realizing the situation was becoming more serious than he imagined, tried to intervene. Come on, let's calm down. This is just a party. We don't need to make it a drama. I promise there's nothing between Stacy and me, right? He looked at Stacy, expecting support. Stacy nodded, but Maria could see the hesitation in her eyes. The friendship they had seemed to crumble before her. She needed answers and wasn't willing to settle for empty words. Later that night, while the guests danced and celebrated, Maria withdrew, feeling a knot in her stomach. What was supposed to be a night of celebration had now become a minefield of uncertainties. With her phone in hand, she decided she needed to discover the truth. As she scrolled through social media, her hands trembled. Then she found a conversation between David and Stacy. The messages were full of compliments and laughter, but what shocked her most were the insinuations of meetings and moments that seemed much more than friendship. Maria's heart raced. How could I have been so naive? She murmured to herself, feeling a wave of betrayal wash over her. The night dragged on, and Maria couldn't sleep. The messages echoed in her mind, and every word felt like a stab. He not only betrayed me with Stacy, but also deceived me about our relationship, she thought as tears streamed down her face. Memories of happy moments mingled with the pain of knowing it all might have been a lie. Finally, in a moment of clarity, Maria decided she needed to act. She could no longer be the silent victim. With a plan starting to take shape in her mind, she got out of bed, determined to uncover the truth. The idea of following Stacy and David to one of their meetings began to take shape. If that's what they want, I'll find out everything, she whispered, feeling a new strength grow within her. Anger propelled her, and the idea of revenge began to mix with the desire to regain her self-esteem. Maria knew that no matter what happened, she wouldn't let David and Stacy destroy her life. Her life deserved to be more than a game of deceit and betrayal. Maria entered her home with a heavy heart, her conflicting emotions overwhelming her. The image of David's smile, so intimate with Stacy, still burned in her mind. She threw her purse on a chair and collapsed onto the sofa, feeling her eyes sting with rage and sadness. How could he do this to me? She thought as frustration boiled inside her. It was time to take action. This cycle of betrayal and disloyalty had to end. She remembered how Stacy had always meddled in her relationships, always bringing a seductive smile and engaging conversation, while she, Maria, worked hard to be the perfect girlfriend. Enough, she decided. If David thought he could continue this game, he was very wrong. Maria got up and went to her computer, her heart racing. I'll show him I'm not a fool. With a sharp mind, she began planning her revenge. Maria knew she had social media skills and could use them to her advantage. If they think they're above anything, I'll expose them, she murmured to herself. She began creating fake profiles, disguising her true identity, and dove into David and Stacy's posts, photos, and interactions. She needed to uncover how much more they had hidden. Hours passed as Maria reviewed the messages exchanged between the two, each word hurting her more. The intimacy they shared in messages she never imagined existed disgusted her. He's a liar, she thought, her anger growing. With each new discovery, she felt stronger and more determined. Maria was about to unearth secrets David never wanted her to know. In one of her searches, she found a photo of David at a previous party, surrounded by girls, and her heart raced. Look at him, always the center of attention, she thought, a sarcastic smile forming on her lips. Doing what he does best, deceiving. Maria felt a wave of empowerment. He wasn't just a cheating lover, but also a man with a dark past. She began piecing it together, like a dark detective, scouring every clue she found. I need to know more about him, she whispered to herself, determined. With a click, she began searching for David's past relationships, his ex-girlfriends, anything that could reveal who he really was. In one of the profiles, she discovered an ex-girlfriend who talked about how David had a pattern of cheating. Unbelievable, Maria murmured, shocked and at the same time relieved not to be the only one to have suffered his lies. With each new revelation, Maria felt stronger, more prepared for what was to come. She didn't just want to get revenge on David. She wanted him to face the consequences of his actions. He needs to understand that he can't play with people's feelings, she said to herself as she typed furiously. For Maria, it wasn't just about revenge, but justice. Finally, she leaned back in her chair, taking a deep breath. The tears had dried, replaced by fierce determination. I'll expose him, and Stacy too. They will feel the weight of the truth, she declared out loud, as if the universe were listening. Maria looked out the window, watching the sky darken. It was time to act. With a clear mind and a determined heart, Maria knew she was about to enter an emotional battlefield. The game was just beginning, and she was ready to play it to the end. Let's see how you behave now, David, she thought, a dark smile forming on her lips. Revenge, more than a desire for retribution, was also a step towards her own liberation. A mutual friend's birthday party became the perfect setting for Maria. With a smile on her face, she mingled with the guests, but her mind was far from there. The plan she had devised was beginning to take shape, and the tension grew with each passing minute. The music played loud, but Maria could barely hear the beat of the song. Her heart was pounding with anticipation of what was to come. As she talked to other friends, Maria made subtle comments about Stacy, observing the reactions of those present. Have you noticed how Stacy has been closer to David lately? She asked as she held a drink and looked around. Heads turned, some expressions of curiosity appeared, and Maria saw that her strategy was working. It's true. I've noticed that too, a friend responded, with an intrigued tone. They always seem to be together at every party. Maria nodded, feeling satisfied as she realized her seed of doubt was beginning to sprout. She wanted everyone to know what was happening, that David's betrayal was not just her burden. She wanted the truth to spread like wildfire, burning the illusions her friends had about the couple. The atmosphere at the party was lively, but Maria could feel the tension in the air. With each laugh and toast, she prepared for the big moment. When her friends started commenting on David and Stacy's friendship, Maria gathered courage and decided it was time to act. She took a deep breath, her gaze fixed on David, who was chatting cheerfully in a corner. The time has come, she thought, with a mix of nervousness and determination. Hey guys, Maria called, interrupting the conversation. Everyone turned to her, and the murmur of the party subsided. I need to share something important with you. David's gaze fixed on Maria, and he took a step forward, his expression confused. What are you doing? He murmured, but Maria ignored him. Things are not what they seem, she began, her voice firm but trembling. I've discovered that David and Stacy have a relationship that goes beyond friendship. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. A heavy silence fell over the group, and the looks alternated between Maria, David, and Stacy, who was nearby, with a shocked expression. Maria, that's not true, Stacy exclaimed, trying to maintain her composure as her face turned pale. You're mistaken. But Maria's words echoed in the minds of those present, and an electric tension took over the room. I've seen the messages, Maria continued, her voice gaining strength. I've seen the intimacy between you two and all the lies you've told. I'm not here to attack, but to reveal the truth. What you did to me is not acceptable. David, visibly nervous, tried to intervene. Maria, please, let's talk in private. You don't need to do this here. But David's plea only made Maria's determination grow. He was trying to minimize the situation, but there was no going back. No, David, she replied firmly. You can't hide behind empty words. It's time for everyone to know who you really are. The expressions of surprise and disbelief spread among the guests who watched the scene with wide eyes. The laughter and music that once filled the room were now replaced by a heavy silence, where truths were about to be revealed. You can't do this, Stacy shouted, her voice trembling. You're only embarrassing yourself. But Maria remained unfazed. She was determined to expose the betrayal that had ruined her life, and the courage she felt seemed to grow with every moment. Adrenaline pulsed through her veins, and she realized she could finally rid herself of the weight she had been carrying. The atmosphere was charged with expectation, and everyone was eager to hear the truth Maria had to tell. David's gaze, which was once full of confidence, now became vulnerable. He began to realize that the mask he wore was about to fall in front of everyone. Maria knew this moment was crucial, not only for her revenge, but for her own liberation. The party atmosphere had changed drastically. The music, which once echoed with joy, was now muffled by murmurs and looks of astonishment. Maria, with her heart racing, watched Stacy, who was trying to deny her accusation. The expression of anger and despair on her friend's face was almost pathetic. "You're crazy, Maria. David and I are just friends. We always have been," Stacy exclaimed, her voice trembling. But in her attempt to defend herself, the young woman began to reveal details that Maria knew should be kept secret. "You don't know anything about us. He trusts me with things you never knew." The friends' gazes turned to David, who was pale, visibly shaken by the turn of events. Maria, for a moment, felt a mix of revenge and pain, but took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "So you admit there's something between you? That's all I needed to hear, Stacy. Thank you for exposing yourself like this," Maria said, her tone serene in contrast to the turmoil in the air. David, realizing the situation was slipping out of his control, tried to intervene. "Maria, please, it's not what you're thinking. You can't believe Stacy." He sounded desperate. The man who had always been so charming and confident now seemed small and vulnerable. "And what should I believe, David? Your lies? Your empty promises?" Maria retorted, her voice firm. "You deceived me, and what hurts me most is that you made me believe we were happy." Tears threatened to slide down her face, but she refused to give in. This was her moment to reclaim control of the situation. The friends around, who had been lively at the party, now watched with expressions of shock and curiosity. Among them, whispers began to spread. "I would never have imagined that. How could he do that to her?" Maria felt a wave of satisfaction as she realized David's betrayal was being exposed not only to her, but to everyone present. Stacy, realizing her defense was crumbling, turned to her friends, seeking support. "You believe me, don't you? This is all in her head." But the words sounded hollow. The confidence she once had was gone, and doubts began to linger in the air. "You can't just try to reverse the situation, Stacy. People here know how you act," a mutual friend, Pedro, said, crossing his arms. "I'm disappointed in you and David. I never thought you two were capable of something like this." David's expression became increasingly confused. He looked at Maria, seeking a way out, but Maria wouldn't give him that satisfaction. "You can't hide behind your words, David. What you did is undeniable, and now everyone knows," she stated, her voice firm. With her gaze fixed on Stacy, Maria finally found some peace amid the chaos. "I won't let this betrayal define who I am. You may have thought you were defeating me, but now I see who you really are," Maria said, with renewed strength. David, realizing there was no way out, began to retreat. He looked at Maria one last time, but there was nothing he could say to change the situation. "Maria, he began, but he couldn't finish the sentence. The disappointment in her eyes was enough to silence him. "Leave, David. You don't deserve to be here," Maria responded, her voice firm. He walked away, visibly shaken, as the guests watched, torn between sadness for their friend and outrage at the betrayal. With David out of the picture and Stacy retreating, Maria felt stronger than ever. The tears finally streamed down her face, but now they were tears of release. She wouldn't allow this betrayal to define her. The party, which had begun as a celebration, had become a milestone in her journey of self-discovery. It was time to distance herself from David and Stacy, seeking a new beginning, a new love, and, above all, her own happiness. Maria sat on her bed, the soft light from the lamp illuminating her face as she looked at her phone, her fingers trembling slightly. Adrenaline coursed through her veins. She had finally gathered all the information needed to expose David and Stacy. With one last deep breath, she began typing, the words forming like a storm in her mind. As she sent the post, a mix of relief and nervousness washed over her. Notifications started popping up on the screen, each one echoing her decision. "You can't do this, Maria," said a familiar voice. It was Julia, one of her closest friends, who was on the phone. "This could end very badly for you. If I don't do this, who will?" Maria replied, her voice firm despite the uncertainty she felt. "David and Stacy need to understand that their actions have consequences. They thought they could deceive me and get away with it." Julia was silent for a moment. "But what if they take revenge? What if you lose friends or even your job? Think carefully." Maria closed her eyes, trying to drown out the storm of thoughts that haunted her. "If I don't do this now, I'll live with this betrayal stuck in my throat. I need to free myself." As she talked to Julia, Maria didn't realize that the storm she had started with a simple post on social media was turning into a true hurricane. Messages started pouring in from all sides, likes and shares multiplying. The truth she had revealed was spreading like wildfire. The scandal took over everyone, and David's birthday party, which was supposed to be a celebration, became a battlefield. Shortly after, the reactions began to arrive. Among messages of support from friends and fierce criticism from others, a name appeared that Maria didn't expect. Carla, a longtime friend who had always supported her. The revelation that Carla was in contact with David and Stacy hit her like an arrow. How could she be complicit in all this? Maria decided to confront her. "Carla, I saw your messages with them. You knew what was going on and still stood by my side?" she asked, the pain in her voice clear as crystal. "Maria, I didn't know how to tell you. They asked me not to say anything, and I didn't want to hurt you more. I thought you were happy with David," Carla replied, her voice trembling. "Happy? Do you really think I would be happy knowing my best friend and my boyfriend were betraying me? You betrayed me, Carla." Tears streamed down Maria's face, each word a blow that made her feel betrayed, not only by David and Stacy, but by the friendship she believed she had. "I'm sorry. I didn't want it to be like this. I thought if I said nothing, you'd be okay," Carla pleaded, but the expression on Maria's face said it all. The trust had slipped away like water through fingers. With a heavy heart, Maria decided she wouldn't let betrayal define her anymore. "You may have disappointed me, but I won't let this bring me down. I'm going to rise again," she said, feeling a new determination take over her. And so in the midst of the emotional turmoil, Maria began redirecting her energy. After the storm of reactions on social media, she realized there was more to gain than to lose. Liberation didn't just come from exposing David and Stacy, but from her own strength and courage. Over time, the pain began to transform into strength. Maria began opening herself to new possibilities, and the messages of support she received from true friends began to create a new space in her heart. During one of these conversations, she met Lucas, a friend of a friend who had always been around but had never caught her eye. He was kind, fun, and above all, respectful. "You're amazing, you know?" Lucas said in a casual conversation. "The way you've stood firm through all this is admirable." Maria smiled, for the first time feeling a lightness she hadn't experienced in months. "Thank you, Lucas. I'm just trying to find myself again." And so, as she looked to the future, Maria realized that David and Stacy's betrayal wouldn't define her. She was finally ready to leave the pain behind and embrace the possibility of true love. Life still had much to offer, and she was willing to explore all of it, with or without the approval of those who didn't deserve her love. As you reflect on this story and the unexpected twist that occurred during an event that should have been joyful, ask yourself, have you ever experienced a moment when the unexpected turned your world upside down? How did you deal with it, and what did you learn? Every challenge can be an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. If this story resonated with you and you want to explore more about how to turn difficulties into strength, go ahead and click on the video that's appearing on your screen now. This is, in my opinion, one of the best stories I've ever told. And if you liked what you heard now, you're sure to love this other story as well. So subscribe to the channel, click on the video on your screen now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.